Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Group Chat. We have big. Wow, look at Anand with energy.
It's a great episode.
You've been drinking those energy drinks over there.
Yeah, a lot of Celsius flowing through them. We have a special guest today. We have Zach White, a partner at Sinai Ventures. He's here to talk about their massive LA venture fund that they just raised money for.
Staggering number.
And we're talking about everything that you want to know. You want to know about that DoorDash IPO? You want to know about the Airbnb IPO? Do you want to know about an IPO you don't even know about the IPO? We got IPOs. There's just so many IPOs, SPACs, pipes.
Yes.
He wants it all.
I mean,
just give us.
This is great. Investing 101.
Yeah, this is anything you want to talk about in terms of investing. This is the episode for you. And we talk about, does Jay-Z have a shot at building a successful cannabis brand? Anand has a harsh opinion. Sorry, Hove. If you're a fan, you know.
I'm a Drake guy.
We know.
Oh, God.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Whoa. And then we talk about weed maps. They SPAC'd it up. So that's kind of interesting.
Even though they suck.
Really?
I mean, that was a general consensus.
It's pretty true.
I think everybody will agree once they listen.
And then we get into winners, losers content, and we talk about a message a friend gave me that I wanted to share with you guys and get your opinion on. So let's get into it.
Cash.
Ladies and gentlemen, Group Chat.
Cash.
It's $1 trillion. Hot.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the end of the week. Another incredible episode of Group Chat to get started. We have a special guest, and frankly, I'm a little nervous. Main reason is I saw him posting pictures and a boat in Miami last week.
It's true.
And he's maybe 5 feet from me, so I'm a little nervous.
He did preface he gets tested often.
I got double tested this week, so we're all good. But definitely was pretty spicy down there for a bit. So.
Walk us through Miami. What's going on there? You come back here, everything's shut down. Give us the stark contrast.
Yeah, Miami, no masks anywhere. Indoor dining, full capacity.
Full capacity.
Full capacity.
Like,
back
you
to
go
back.
to like Komodo, Swan, any of these places.
I was at Swan. I saw Tyler Hero smoking hookah at Swan.
He's out right now. Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't the guy be?
Yeah.
I mean, why the hookah? That just seems excessive.
Hookah is like the number one thing of this coronavirus, which is the most ironic thing of all time. But it seems like everywhere hookah is just taking off. But indoor dining's full capacity, gyms full capacity. I saw a comedy show. Like, I didn't go to one, but I saw.
That's actually a joke.
Yeah.
What's the vibe? They just, as far as a Miami resident, the virus isn't stopping them.
It hasn't stopped them. They've been open since May like this, and so people have been indoor dining since pretty much May, and everybody's really seems to be super comfortable with it. And
mask or no mask?
I was made fun of for wearing a mask. So,
really?
Yeah, I went out and I wore my mask because I was like, well, this is just I might as well give myself a shot. And people would come up to me and like, yo, what are you, a pussy? Like,
and you're rocking an N95 too.
Yeah, I was going full bore, and they were. Yeah, I was getting a lot of heat. So I think it's almost become like something to make fun of.
So is a lot of handshaking, high fives?
Handshaking, high fives, making out.
Wow,
all of it.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine a world where people are shaking hands and making out.
Yeah. And strip clubs fully open. Go get a lap dance. Go do whatever. Everything.
So like the girl at 11 doesn't have like a mask on?
Absolutely not. No.
Of all the people, I think they would be the last ones to have a mask.
You know what's crazy is that we live in the same country.
Yes.
And it's two different planets.
Yes.
Like in LA, when I walk down the street, I see an elderly person. I walk in the middle of the street because I don't want to freak them out. Yeah. You know, and in Miami, you're getting a lap dance.
100%.
I need to move to Miami, man. I'm in the wrong fucking city.
A lot of people are doing it.
So, and then like, how was the like traditional Art Basel activities, convention center, everything?
So, interesting enough, what they're doing is they're doing basically everything that they normally would, but they're just not advertising it because they don't want the influx of people to fly in and like popularize it like that. Yeah. But the local people in Miami are have events. There's flyers. There's art in the convention center. Like it's
And you're telling me there's no hospitalization problem there?
I just don't think that people are getting A, tested, B, going to the hospital. I think that a lot of, from what I've heard from my friends who live out there, most people just get it and keep it moving.
That's incredible.
Fascinating, because we're in a state where we're getting lectured every day by a governor and mayor.
It definitely gave me a different perspective on, because everyone's just living their lives down there. Like people are doing everything that you normally would have done a year ago, and it seems to be fine. I'm not, I don't have the data behind it, but.
So if you were to suggest what's the right balance, obviously you look outside, it's a ghost town in LA, and then Miami is popping.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that I really appreciated about Miami is that everybody in the service industry seemed to be really happy and like really appreciative that everywhere else they didn't really have an opportunity to do any type of service work, but there they did. So it seemed like everybody's, I guess, general spirits were higher from like an economic perspective, because there's not like rampant businesses closed left and right. There's no
lines at the food bank.
Exactly. There's there's no like boarded up windows on anything. Everything's just open and operating. And so, I think that there's like a more nuanced, I think we're like operating with such a blunt instrument out here. And I think that there's like a more nuanced take that because there's no data that says outdoor dining is bad. And there's no data that really, I mean, there might be, but they haven't shown it to us, which I think is the issue. And so out there, they're just living life.
There's no way they know the data. Because when we go out to eat, no one's asking me any questions. They take down my phone number. Just say, if you get infected, we're gonna have to text you.
But they don't even have like a system in place to even accurately take that data down. And then once they have it, again, the problem becomes what to do with it, because it's a public service, so it's automatically going to be.
I think Snowflake could solve that problem.
Snowflake, they'll solve it for
Big
sure.
data.
If I had to, the fascinating thing to me is that I never was a huge fan of Miami. I thought there's like I think it was probably one of the most overrated cities.
Oh my God.
And this is the capital
You're
grab.
capital jackass.
This is a land grab by Miami. Very smart of them to attract all the billionaires from California to come and kind of just give the city a lift.
I mean, not only are you seeing all the tech folks move out there, you saw Ivanka and Jared buy a
30
property.
mil,
And then yesterday, Carly Kloss and Josh, big bro, swooped in.
I think Josh
is the younger
bro.
one, little bro. Little bro swooped in and bought a mansion himself
down the street. So there's no beef between Carly Kloss and Josh, who are very liberal.
Yes.
They're at the Women March in DC, and Jared and Ivanka, I guess. Is this all just theatrics?
Yeah, I mean, no one actually believes any of the nonsense Donald Trump says. No. Even the family is probably like
laughing at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they're just like, whatever. This guy really hates all these people.
I think the Kushners specifically, it's a great move, just because of the 70 million people that voted for Donald Trump. There's a high percentage of them with, some really strong business ties in the Florida area, and so I think they're just getting a little bit closer to
the power for them.
Yeah, where they're going to like succeed over the next couple of years. Because if they stayed in New York,
they'd be outcast.
They'd get run out of the city. Like,
yeah.
So, but what was interesting to me is like, for these guys, like I was looking at housing prices in Miami, and the most expensive possible house that's listed on the market right now. Like if you had all the money in the world, this is the most expensive house you could buy in Miami. It's $50 million, which is like, you go to Atherton or Palo Alto, that's like, it's
an average house.
There's a lot of houses on a lot of blocks that are that price.
On the bird streets, there's a dozen.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is like the Kushners went down and dropped, I think, 30, and they got fucking a ridiculous amount.
I've seen the houses that my friends have purchased out there. They are insane, and they have insane houses in LA, and they're like, this is a steal.
Sure. Yeah.
And even just rentals, like if you don't live on the beach and you want to rent an apartment in Miami,
you want to live in Brickell, you get $1,800 and you got a brand new modern
and you're living
apartment.
in those high rises, full service buildings, which you could never do that in LA or New York or San Francisco. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm that a state that's open, a state with no state income tax, and you have a bunch of billionaires that are about to make many, many, many more billions in the next 6 to 8 months. And I think Miami's the beneficiary of it all.
And we were talking about this just before we started, that you even, mentioned was there is this influx of people going, and I think Anand, you said that it is just theatrics that they're making it public that they're leaving.
Because every tax attorney will tell you the way to prove that you actually aren't a California resident is to be very public about you moving to another state, which is what everyone in Silicon Valley that's moved, they're making they're getting on their podiums and just talking about how they're moving to Miami. Like, no one gives a shit, but you're trying to tell the tax man, like, hey, I actually moved. And I think it's actually pretty strict. Like, they have to be gone for like a year if they're playing the tax game.
Like, you can't ever come back.
They're not even supposed to pop back in.
Wow.
Or if they do, it's like very quick. Like, California is coming after all these people. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
And even Zach was mentioning before that there's potential bills to claw back tax revenue you made where the company you built was located. So,
which kind of sucks for California because like you used California people resources to build these massive, because by the way, if DoorDash started in Miami, let me tell you, we would not be talking about it today.
No,
No, absolutely not. And like, I think the other interesting aspect of it is that like you see like any billionaire or any successful tech person worth their salt does not have their assets on this continent. Like that's just a simple fact. And so I think that what you're starting to see is like they're just starting to appease kind of the general consensus of like the eat the rich movement. It's like you have to kind of provide people context on your moves at every moment now. And so like they're just saying, hey, I'm going down to Miami because listen, I'm going to pay less taxes. This is one way for me to justify it. I'm paying no taxes anyway. But this is one way for me to say I'm paying less and for it to be like okay because it's accepted in society. So
Zach, tell us a little bit about what you do. So you're a partner at Sinai Ventures. We mentioned you guys, I think on last week or the week before pod, because you announced probably one of the largest, dollar amounts of a fund in LA in a long time.
Yeah.
So it got us like excited that there's a local company doing this kind of damage.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear a little background there.
Yeah, sure. So me and my business partner, Jordan, we had a fund called Sinai Ventures, which we raised in 2017 as a $100 million sort of stage agnostic venture capital fund that we looked at, businesses across a host of different things, biotechnology, consumer, enterprise technology. And, we did super well with that vehicle. And so off the back of that, we recently raised our second fund, Sinai Ventures 2, which is ended up coming out to $600 million, which makes it the biggest fund in Los Angeles history for venture capital specifically.
Wow.
And then alongside that, we also run another kind of more special situations type fund that exists in the content space where we're sort of buying and selling content and being the middleman between creators and people with interesting ideas and these large tech companies that have now become the number one acquirers for a lot of pieces of content in this day and age.
And so you guys are working with our obviously our best friends at Hwood on Magic Johnson doc.
Yeah, and hopefully a couple of other things that we've got in the pipeline, but you guys have mentioned it a bunch of times. John's probably one of the most connected guys out here. And so some of the stories that he tells me, like they should just be movies. And, so
every night's a movie in his life.
If John's text messages could talk.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. I always see him texting and I never like take it personally because I know just something ridiculous is happening on the other side of it. So yeah, he's great. I was just with him out in Nashville, another place where masks are very optional. He's been him and his whole company. What they're doing is super interesting. So
that's amazing. And so, how did you guys enter the venture space? Because in LA, I would say it's a pretty new concept.
Mm-hmm.
There's Upfront, which is the only one that was when we kind of started investing. That was the only one we'd really heard of. Mm-hmm. And then now there's obviously been popped up a lot. But like, you know how that whole world works. So like LA was not welcome till we brought celebrities.
Sure. Yeah, I think what you're starting to see is kind of twofold. And coronavirus has kind of sped this up a little. A lot of people are fleeing the traditional tech hubs of the world. So San Francisco being the main one. A lot of people are just coming down here and they've gotten their payout from, whatever large tech company, Uber, Facebook, whatever, WhatsApp. et cetera. And they're looking to start something new and in somewhere new. And I think LA is a very attractive place because cost of living is substantially lower and getting much lower as a result of this coronavirus. And you got, some strong technically oriented schools that are coming up around here. UCLA is getting a lot better. USC has a bunch of programs in the entrepreneurship space now, Carnegie Mellon, like that kind of stuff. And there are big tech businesses that are being built down here. Like you can't deny that things like SpaceX and other companies of that caliber have been built in our backyard. Snapchat, yeah, exactly. And so, those people for the longest time had to sort of exodus from LA once they reached a certain sort of velocity because nobody had the capital to really satisfy their needs. And for us, that's, me and my business partner, Jordan, we're both from LA. We both grew up out here. So, we felt as though there would be a lot of value creation if we kind of just applied what we know about LA and the kind of the people that we know out here and sort of operate a venture model out here, trying to capture the value that's being created out here.
What high school did you go to?
Samo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my business partner went to Beverly.
Nice.
Yep.
Wow. Public schools.
Public schools, yeah.
That's amazing. You did well because I know some other scary people from Samo High School.
Me too. Definitely me too.
Some of them may have worked for us.
Yeah, some of the scary people worked for us. Yeah,
definitely. It was. You definitely get both sides of the coin for sure.
Yeah. Samo's definitely a toss-up. Santa Monica High School for those listening. But that's super interesting. So where do you see the opportunity? So we're obviously going to talk about the DoorDash IPO, Airbnb IPO, and throw a fucking dart IPO. Everything is on fire.
Yeah.
Where do you see the opportunity today as an investor? Because the capital is everywhere.
Yeah.
So how do you guys think about the next generation of businesses?
I mean, I think it's really clear that the opportunity right now is probably better than it ever has been for somebody in my position or somebody who's running a fund, just because the opportunities for liquidity, even 5 years ago, they were so narrow. You either got acquired or you went public, and the barrier to going public was a lot higher than it is now. And you're starting to see all these kind of novel financial instruments, SPACs, PIPE, all these acronyms that people are really starting to dig into and utilize in a really interesting way from the perspective of, people who have portfolios of equity to manage. And so I think for us, the opportunity is that the marketplace is really receptive right now for large tech names, and the more sort of goodwill that you have behind the actual name of the company, the better. And so for us, there's we feel like there's a few of those being built right in our backyard right now, and we're going to take a global perspective overall from the venture side of things and continue to invest in New York and San Francisco as well. But we just think that the shift from sort of private to public markets there's just a lot of money to be made there, candidly, and a lot of great ideas that deserve to be brought to light that other people should be able to share in the value creation of as well. So,
yeah, I think when you think about technology, the people who say oh, it's a bubble, I agree with you. It's just getting started. The next 10 years, the value creation is going to be multiples of what the last 10 years. And the number that sticks out to me is global GDP is 85 trillion, and only 10 trillion of that 85 is internet-enabled businesses.
Right.
So is that going to be bigger or smaller?
Yeah.
It's a pretty obvious bet, in my opinion. And Sam Altman, who started Y Combinator, a blog post he did 6 years ago, and he made a bet with anyone who was willing to take it. I'm not sure if anyone took it. And he listed out some of the companies that YC did. So it was Airbnb, Uber, Stripe, Coinbase, and every hot company, Dropbox. And the valuations he said that they would be in 2020 seemed high in 2014. And they're multiples of what he predicted in 2014.
Yeah.
And that was a bold prediction. So I also felt this when we missed out on Uber, early investing in Uber. And I was just there's never going to be another Uber.
Right.
And there's been 50.
Sure.
Everything's better.
Yeah.
Everything's better.
Yeah. Airbnb bigger than Uber.
It's
already bigger than Uber.
So
there's going to be 5 things in the next 7 days that are going to be bigger.
Uber seemed like such an outlier, and it's literally trading under what all these other companies. Shopify's bigger,
100%.
Stripe's bigger.
Yep. Stripe's bigger in the private markets.
Yeah. Imagine if Stripe was in the public markets.
You know what's actually really funny is I think that if Stripe was in the public markets, it wouldn't pop like an Airbnb would, even though it's a substantially better
company.
business
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it doesn't have the cachet of I can stay in a fucking Stripe, you know? Like Stripe is just this amorphous kind of thing that helps you out, your e-commerce business out. Whereas I think the tangible things that like the really consumer facing stuff, it really like the advertising sort of flywheel that exists on the internet for tech companies specifically in public markets it's like a good thing and a terrible thing. At the same time.
And to be fair, like, and I don't want to discount this, but when I think about DoorDash and Airbnb, they're not technology businesses.
No.
They're tech enabled.
For sure.
Technology enabled for the experience to happen. But like they're valued like a software company.
Yes.
Which actually has like,
90% margins.
90% margins. Whereas Airbnb has real fixed cost and real expenses.
Sure.
And like same with DoorDash. DoorDash being a very difficult business. Like the DoorDash IPO that came out yesterday, I forgot, I think it almost doubled.
Yeah, it's up 80%.
And the market cap, I think, ended at, what was it? 70
around there.
65 plus.
billion, right? And if I'm thinking about DoorDash had the ultimate lead up to an IPO. World got shut down. You can't eat out. And they were the beneficiary of it.
Right.
So to me, and I know that food delivery is still in the early stages, but their business is going to be worse next year. I don't think it's going to be better.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see a world where DoorDash all of a sudden has like double digit, the same percentage growth that they had in the last 12 months that they're going to have the next 12 months. Because if the moment the world opens up, ain't no one getting food delivered.
I also think it doesn't matter because there's two things that are happening. One, the Fed has made every other asset class uninvestable.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
the only place you can put your money if you're a large institution is public
DoorDash.
equities. And secondly, Airbnb, DoorDash, I think what people miss on technology investing specifically, and it's just easy to say, oh, they're overvalued given their current numbers. Tesla's being priced at what 2025 and 2026 looks like.
Perfect execution.
Airbnb is being priced what 2025 looks like.
I want to be priced then.
No, but the fact of the matter is there's no other industry where you can grow 40% year over year, and you can't find that growth anywhere. And so institutional investors are looking at it like, would I buy Macy's stock or Airbnb stock?
So then in that theory, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Facebook are very undervalued.
I 100% agree. Vastly undervalued.
Yeah. They're steals.
And I think that I've seen at least is that those companies do better M&A than any other business in any other category.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the comp for what an Airbnb would be like Starwood Group or something. I'm sure they do fine acquisitions, but they're not leveraging. Like I think the opportunity here is that you're going to start to see these businesses become a lot more unit economic efficient and a lot more just generally capital efficient because they have the ability to leverage the data that because they are tech enabled, they have access to like so much more data that will continue. Like if they can continue to make 25% better decisions than their comp on whatever the marketplace it is, then they'll continue to steal market share just by virtue of the tech enabledness because data is, I think that like adjusting risk to being able to look at these companies with large pools of data, they're actually de-risked quite a lot to what Starwood would be, where they're just like, we're looking at hotel capacity and we're looking at things like that. These guys have so much internet-based data, so much like just layers and layers of different things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if I looked at a DoorDash and I thought, oh, they're just going to be delivering food, I would say that then they're overvalued. My guess is they're going to be in the ghost kitchen business.
Yeah.
They're going to...
Well, they're talking about their vision that they pitched on the road shows that they're last mile delivery for everything.
Everything.
Yeah, that's the future of DoorDash.
So then that's a much different business.
And the other thing people need to understand is the Datadog, Snowflakes, Airbnb, DoorDash, all of these companies have 40 to 60% year over year growth. When that growth goes to 10%, and if it does, those stocks are going to crater.
Yeah.
So the assumption is the growth is never ending because
Amazon did it.
Amazon, Facebook, Google are still growing at astronomical rates, which is why they're all
Microsoft.
Yeah.
But that's the game everyone's betting that the growth is going to be here for the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
So if you think their growth slows, like a company like Box, we kind of joke about, they're growing at like 8 to 10% a year. And
Disgusting.
They're trading at 4x revenue.
I think that was one of the interesting things that, like, to your point, that you saw with the Salesforce acquisition of Slack.
Yeah.
Because when they bought Slack, they increased their revenue some astronomical amount just right off the bat, and they would have never gotten that growth unless, you know, they had really overpriced stock, and they were able to get Slack for, in my opinion, kind of a deal.
Right.
And so, you know, I think that you're going to continue to see that. You see these really pumped up sort of values for these companies. They're going to leverage that really expensive stock to buy companies that bring material changes to the bottom line of their business, whether it be from a revenue or EBITDA perspective or whatever. And so that also creates the opportunity for people who are, again, investing in early stage technology, because they're going to have to keep buying these companies to continue to facilitate this growth. And if they don't, to your point, it's, you know, it's a very quick decline.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing about Silicon Valley companies, is that, like, I don't feel like they operate with an ego. Like, if they don't see it within their own company, they'll go buy
Just
it.
buy it, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, a traditional company, like when you look at, like, take Macy's, which had a $25 billion market cap a few years ago, and they didn't go just on a buying spree with their stock.
Like, they should have been buying 15 years ago, because the transition of
Not
fashion
even 15.
to e-commerce
You could have done it
was so
5.
obvious.
No,
Yeah.
you could have done it 3 years
It was
ago.
staring in their face. They were just, that's one of the most poorly run companies that we've seen.
You could have, Macy's should have bought Revolve, should have bought all of it.
They should have bought them all 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They would have got them all for cheap.
Yeah. And then they'd be in a very different position. And I think that's going to be the challenge. That'll be the difference between these companies, is that, like, DoorDash will go and, you know, they'll go do last mile. They'll go buy FedEx or whatever, you know, they'll figure it out. They'll evolve their business. Whereas I think a lot of other folks in the old world, they're just like, we are a retailer and that's what we do. And then you're just going to go down with the ship.
And you're just taking money out of those guys' pockets if you're a technology investor.
Yeah.
You're just taking market share and money from the Macy's of the world, the Kroger's of the world, like all these antiquated sort of large scale businesses that have existed forever. You're starting to see their sort of lunch get eaten to a certain extent. So
Yeah, and Airbnb was that big IPO today, and I, like, never turn on a Bloomberg or CNBC anymore.
it was popping today.
But I just was like, I got it. It felt like it was part of history.
Yeah.
You know, like, I remember watching vividly when I was in high school, when, like, Amazon went public and eBay, and everyone was like, is this a joke? These companies are worthless, whatever. And now, you know, watching, it was exciting. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was actually super excited. They had Brian Chesky on, and he was a loss for words when they told him it's going to open at $140. And he was like, like, he just was like, are you, like, he was speechless.
Sure.
Because it's, you know, by the way, we were talking in March that this company may not exist, or they may have to do, like, some horrendous down round, which they ended up did.
They did a down convertible note in the mid 20s.
Yeah.
It was half their valuation.
Yeah, I think it was like mid 20, like 25 maybe. And
Yeah.
so there's Silver Lake Partners, a couple of other people really, really cleaned up on that one.
Yeah, Sequoia's made
Sixth
like
Street.
15 billion this week.
What a good week for them.
Yeah. Must be nice. Oh, they're all in Florida chilling.
But yeah, you look at Airbnb. It said, I think when it came out public, it was the valuation topped about 100 billion. I don't know I haven't checked what the stock closed at today, but let's say it's in that range.
Yeah, it's like 8. I think I checked right before I got here. It was like 90.
$90 billion, which I think is the value of 2 Marriotts.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think what's interesting is like, which is why the stock is trading at this, because I don't think anyone treats Airbnb as like a hotel company.
Of course
so you
not.
can't value
It's the
it
same way people missed Uber every round when they kept comparing it to the taxi
industry.
So
yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. Uber now is just a poorly run version of DoorDash.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. DoorDash, I have one of my best friends knows all 3 businesses really well. DoorDash, Postmates, and Uber Eats. And he consistently has told me over the years, DoorDash is the gold standard.
Yeah, the unit economics, from what I understand, I mean, from the S1 is far better than anything that Uber or Postmates could ever do. So
That's insane. So Airbnb, which, you know, I jokingly said would trade at $100 billion a few weeks ago. And
right on the
and I
nose.
remember I was tweeting it out and people were like, oh, you're just an idiot. And I'm just like, no, you have to understand. I saw people, you know, I talked to 2 friends this morning and they were also like, I want to get in on it. It's just like, it's hype. And Airbnb is a consumer brand.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Palantir, which no one even knows what they do.
They're killing it too, though.
Yeah, they killed it too, but then you get that pop, that day one pop.
No, but they got that like week 2 pop.
Yeah.
That's because it was a direct listing.
That was a direct listing, yeah. And so you're seeing these like brand names that people know. And so like I saw a woman tweet, I just searched the Airbnb ticker symbol because I wanted to see what people were talking about. I saw this woman and goes, you know what? I'm buying some Airbnb stock for my son.
Yeah.
He enjoys using it. He always says it's a great service. So I'm buying some stock in his name. And this is just, some woman in the middle of nowhere that just realizes that it's like a transformative company, maybe invested $5,000 and put it in her son's name.
Right.
And it's like, if that happens a million times over, that's it.
Yeah,
You're off to the races.
100%. Yeah. And the other aspect of it is that like these companies are IPOing at such high levels, like Airbnb IPOing at 100 billion instantly in all of the market cap weighted ETFs. It instantly, or not instantly, but it definitely has to get included at some point. So then to his point, you have all of these pension funds, endowments now have to buy these market cap weighted ETFs, and all of it is filled with these DoorDash.
Yeah, it's just fund flow.
Yeah.
Which is like so predictable. Like we joke about how all these IPOs are going to double, and it's just like fund flow.
Yeah.
Funds just have to invest somewhere.
They have to put it in there because it's a part of the ETFs that they're forced to buy because they have these long-standing relationships with Merrill Lynch or whatever, and Merrill Lynch is just putting together whatever the fuck that they can sell.
There's like our IPO fund here.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's a joke.
And I think one of the interesting things, Airbnb, the swings in valuation they had, like
insane.
5 years ago, they were trading at the predicted IPO price, $35 billion.
Yeah,
5 years ago, Airbnb was $35 billion. Then they did the convertible note, which I think was actually like 17, 18 billion.
Yeah, it might have been lower.
And now they're 100 billion.
Yeah.
8 months later.
That is just the wildest ride, especially for an Airbnb, because all the other companies that have recently gone public, it's been like the last 3 years rocket ship.
Yep.
This guy went from 5 years ago at 35 billion, got cut, and I'm sure every employee was like, we're screwed.
Yeah.
He fired like 1,000 people.
2,500.
There was 600 million worth of canceled options that would have hit today from the people who got fired.
God. Can they sue?
No.
I don't know. I don't think so.
If they got fired for cause, like...
Or even laid off.
Yeah.
I think he accelerated all their vesting, though. The people. I don't know. But from what I hear, he's a pretty decent guy.
Oh, he's a great dude. I've met him a bunch of times. He's a really nice guy. But some people got definitely fucked over.
I know. I'm really curious. I'm always curious to see how that plays out, especially with like non-vested employees.
And then also, I think DoorDash coming in and being worth almost as much as Uber just shows you how much the board of Uber fucked up the company.
Yeah.
Like, you should have been aligned with Travis, because Travis would not have allowed DoorDash to just come kick their ass.
Absolutely not.
In their own backyard. Like, it's, and everything I hear about Tony from DoorDash is like, he's a star.
Oh, yeah. He's
Everyone says like he's a beast, and he's just going to kick Dara's ass.
Yeah, I agree. The problem is Tony didn't have to act like a fucking prick.
To get the things
to get to where he is. Tony gave all of his dashers $300,000 to $20,000 yesterday as a gift to all dashers are the drivers, I assume.
Yes.
So he gifted all the drivers.
Depending on how long they'd worked with the company. Yeah.
Imagine getting $20,000 if you're a driver.
Just a driver?
But Travis would never do that. That's why Travis is not running Uber.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, at this point, what's the point of them even focusing on the ride sharing? DoorDash is just Uber, a better executed version of Uber Eats.
Yeah.
What's the whole point of doing all that work for the taxi?
I would be surprised if in like 2 years there's like no more ride sharing.
Yeah, and it's
like I gotta go buy cars, I got parking lots, and everything's back.
Yeah, I don't really. That's an interesting valuation for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of really interested to see, because like what we still have left in the next 2 weeks are Roblox.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We have what was another big one?
Also going to absolutely demolish it.
Instacart. I think first quarter is
no, but what's in the next before Christmas? Because by the way, for people that are new to investing, this time of year is sleepy usually.
Oh my God.
Like nobody's working.
After Thanksgiving, the financial markets are typically shut.
Well, there's nowhere to go, so everyone is forced to work. You can't go to St. Bart. You can't go. You can't do any of it. You got to just work.
So they're like, I'm going to pump out 16 more IPOs before Christmas.
And the untold story that I don't know why it's not being written in the media is Mayoshi's son was right all along.
Yeah.
Vision Fund's gonna be a positive return.
Because he was the DoorDash biggest.
I think he owned like 20% of DoorDash.
Oh my God. And he's in Airbnb?
I don't know.
I don't think so. No, they took WeWork as that bet.
And so WeWork they got smoked on, but I think everything else they're gonna make money.
They
on.
also are gonna make a ton of money on ARM, right? They're selling ARM.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
and they had the big positions in some upcoming IPOs that they're gonna make tens and tens of billions.
And he was investing in the public markets in spring, summer too. Remember
trading options?
Yeah.
He was the whale.
They were he was the whale who was moving all the options markets, which is insane.
So everyone talking shit about Mayoshi's son,
and he's trying to take it private. He's trying to take SoftBank back private.
I mean, he might be able to with the amount of money he made today.
I think you're actually going to start to see that a lot, is because if you can take your company private, adjust some of the unit economics on it, fire a couple people, clean up the cap table a little bit, and then you bring it back public, you can add a ridiculous
Honestly, the Vision Fund, he had vision.
I mean, he doubled down when everyone was like, "Yo, you're an idiot." He was like, "No, I'm gonna keep."
He's making a killing on Uber. Uber's at $95 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to go down as one of the more polarizing people for sure, but
he definitely lifted valuations to heights that Silicon Valley never had seen, but the public markets are doing 6x that.
Well, I think that he's the catalyst for that even starting. I think that he made people comfortable with these numbers that you've just never heard of for IPO companies before.
Yeah.
And then
we talked about it in the last episode when Montclair bought
Stone Island
for $1.4 billion. I laughed. I was like, $1.4 billion? What is that?
And the problem, what actually might be the unintended consequence of all that is people might stop trying to build companies that aren't going to have a 25x revenue multiple. You know what I mean? What's the point of even trying to build the next innovative fashion brand when the ceiling is $1 billion?
The ceiling, you're right. No, it's a great point. So that basically means that
Stitch Fix is now worth $6 billion, and that shouldn't
seems light.
But
tech-enabled.
Tech-enabled. If Stitch Fix had gone public today, it'd be a $30-40 billion
If Stone Island had some tech-enabled, that would have been a lot more.
I gotta imagine Box, Dropbox, even Stitch Fix. I'll throw in there. If they look at their valuations and then they see what's going on with any IPO, because this is just a
100%.
frenzy.
They're just we should have waited. What
Box
do we do?
is a $3 billion company that does $800 million in revenue.
And by the way, if you ask anyone, nobody knows. Airbnb had a bad year.
Really bad.
The revenue is down. They didn't have a good year. And so the economics of your business doesn't even matter because people are just buying on frenzy.
And name brand. And
that's why Warby Parker should go public. Because
they just raised a new private round, which I don't understand. They should be going public. They should have gone public a year ago.
That's perfect. Just like every time you buy a pair of glasses, you get to buy a share.
Sure, why not?
It would work. Oh my God, it's madness, and like we said, it's just the beginning.
Yes,
this is just gonna go on.
Don't feel if you missed out on the last decade because the next decade's gonna be
especially
multiples.
with Janet Yellen,
the money printer,
the money printer. And she was actually she was the commencement speaker at my graduation for university.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she basically told us that this was going to happen. She was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be around for a little while doing my thing, so you guys should be good." I was like, "What does that even mean?"
Where'd you go to school?
I went to NYU.
Okay, got it. That's really funny. So, I mean, it's not going to stop. I think the next 10 years, 100 billion is the new billion, right?
Yeah.
Remember when companies
100 bill's the new 10 bill, I think.
Okay,
for
sure.
But 10 bill's the new 1 bill. So if you're Stone Island, you're kind of embarrassed about it all,
Stone Island is my best outcome, and it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
Oh my God. I mean, so moving on, because we could talk about that stuff all day. Finally, there's someone entering the cannabis space, which I don't know why he waited so long, and that's Jay-Z. Jay-Z is entering the cannabis space, which is interesting. Have you guys done anything in cannabis?
Yeah, we're big investors in a vaporization company called Dosist, which are these little sort of pens that give you exact doses every time you hit them. And we're also a big investor in a company called Dutchie, which is more on the software side of cannabis. They basically provide back end and delivery systems for dispensaries that don't want to build it in house.
Got it.
But I think that I personally have been less interested in investing in like flower touching companies just because
Of regulation or?
not necessarily regulation. It just the types of people that tend to work in that industry, at least over the past couple of years, are people that have been sort of migrating from black market to
Yeah.
Public market, I guess. And so it hasn't always been the smoothest experience for a lot of people I know who have been big cannabis investors, but I think now you're starting to see these more software-oriented plays, which.
But you do agree that the brand side of cannabis is still like going to be maybe the biggest opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, I think the brand. Yes and no, because I think that you're going to start to see there are going to be specific companies that operate like 3PL and.
Yeah.
Just like there's
co-packer or whatever.
Yeah, every aspect of the supply chain also needs to be oriented towards cannabis specifically, and they're going to be people who capitalize on that all day long as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jay-Z's brand is called Monogram. It's a premium cannabis brand, which I think there's a lot of opportunity in premium cannabis. Like it's like wine, right? Like
100%.
It's just there's enough appetite for people that will pay a premium, especially given what marijuana from a popular culture standpoint means. Like you don't want to be smoking, you don't want to have like your original AirPods, and you don't want to have some bum ass weed.
I don't know if it's gonna work for Jay-Z. Tidal's a failure. Duce, I don't want people to scream at me. I can't imagine it's doing great.
And I think he's just an advisor. He's not, I don't think he has any equity, but like he might have like advisory shares or something, but I don't think he
in the cannabis brand.
Yeah, put money into it.
But it's not his namesake brand.
I think he's an advisor, and as an advisor, he's been able to sort of direct it creatively. But I don't think that he's like out there at the farm, like making sure all the strains look good,
Yeah, I mean, I think it can work if he is intimately connected
Involved.
with the brand.
Yes.
Like if you see him smoking a joint from it, then I'd be like, I want that.
Sure.
But if it's not that, then yes. If he's just like the figurehead.
I actually don't know. I don't know. I know Jay-Z is obviously.
I think there's a demographic that cares.
I think it's small. I think about how much he's rapped about Duce.
But that's a wrong product market fit, right? Like cognac is.
Yeah, I mean, cognac's kind of fallen off as just a drink in general. Like if Jay-Z had a tequila brand right now, I'm sure it'd be doing fine. But I think that the issue here remains is that like people have such a like it's kind of what market are you even approaching with this? It's like are you trying to approach people who kind of just like hip hop and like to smoke? Because the avid cannabis connoisseur is always going to do their research and look at like, what's the terpene profile, THC level, like, so that's not necessarily the market because it doesn't seem branded to that. For me, it seems like the Silicon Valley guy who, doesn't care how much he spends, just wants to be kind of like a part of the culture kind of thing. Yeah. And so for me, like, I don't know how big that market is. It might be really big and it might not be, but it doesn't seem that he's orienting this for like the cannabis connoisseur. It's like more so.
It's a brand play.
Yeah, I think so.
That's interesting. So you think it's a flop?
Yeah, I think he comes too late to the party.
Yeah.
He came late to the party with alcohol, streaming service, and now marijuana brand.
And like the marijuana brands that do incredibly, like Cookies, for example, Burner and Cookies, like he smokes. Like he's out there just
he's out there pushing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like I don't know if you've heard the numbers of what that Melrose store does.
Can I guess?
Please. On their best day. Like what's their best day? How much do you think they do?
$250,000.
$450,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That makes sense. The line is
and it's 365. They do not close. They are open they're Thanksgiving open, Christmas open.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a Macy's.
Yeah.
That's what a Macy's does on a good day.
They're printing.
How big's that store? I've never been in.
Square footage wise?
Yeah.
I don't know how big the back is. Maybe 3,500.
So it's the best store in the world.
Yes.
Per square foot.
It's like an Apple store on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, it's like the Hermes on Fifth Avenue. They're probably just and then without the rent cost.
Yeah.
But like they're about to get kicked out of that neighborhood apparently. So
yeah, I see a lot of.
There's a lot of unscrupulous behavior on the outskirts.
They should literally buy the entire block. Right. And just literally like, yo, if you guys want to hang out, this is all our property.
We'll give you a discount if you want to stay, but like otherwise you got to bounce.
Yeah, but that's amazing. That's what I mean. I still think like cannabis is just such early days. We actually have the founder of Can, the carbonated beverage, coming out next week, which I think those are all the space is just still like It hasn't started as far as I'm
No,
concerned.
there hasn't been one marquee acquisition for anything that resembles like a pure weed company yet.
Yeah.
And I think once that happens, it'll open up the floodgates because everyone has FOMO on that side of things. So it's like once, Turning Point or whoever, like whatever large conglomerate buys a weed company, then you'll start to see everybody in the space.
Yeah, I saw Founders Fund let a
LeafLink.
LeafLink.
LeafLink. So LeafLink's, when I started investing in venture capital in general, that's one of the first companies I ever did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Congrats.
$8 million round.
Because my buddy who runs Casa Verde, I get
Karan.
I get emails every time they close a deal, and I saw you 40x'd.
Yes.
That's a good day for you.
Yeah, not bad.
What is LeafLink?
Yeah. Huh?
Software?
Yeah, so basically they automate the processes of so like back in literally 3 to 4 years ago, if you wanted to connect a supplier with a dispensary, like somebody who grew weed in whatever, the Emerald Triangle and a dispensary, they would literally come down with duffel bags full of the different options of what they had, and you would literally sit there with a pad and paper and be like, I want 1 pound of this, I want 1 pound of this, and 1 pound. And every time you wanted to reorder, it was a similar process. So they basically just optimized and streamlined, like they got basically every farm and every sort of supplier on the platform, and they now have, I think, 60-something% of dispensaries in North America.
Wow.
Crazy.
And so, yeah, they just basically take a nice little spread off connecting those two groups.
Got it. So they just take.
So it doesn't touch which is why, like, I think Tiger Global also did that round, Founders Fund.
So as long as you don't touch the flower, there's more money.
I think so much more because there's so many more people who buy it.
And if you think about the capital allocators, if you don't touch the flower, you may upset your LP.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is just a tech play or platform
You
play.
can get, so my understanding, and this was applicable to me actually, is you can get like vice clauses. I don't know if everyone knows what that is, but a lot of funds aren't allowed to invest in alcohol, tobacco, firearms, things like that. You can get around the drug aspect of vice clauses if it's software based.
Got it.
Yeah, and so think about if your investor base is Founders Fund and Tiger Global and those types who have billions and billions of
Sure,
dollars.
they have pension money. They have, they have police pension money. Like,
versus, because we're still a ways away from marijuana being federally legal.
See, I don't know. Maybe.
But how many states do you think it's legal? I actually don't know.
States legal? It's above 30. It's above half.
Okay.
But
you think
I think that it's like, so I think that this is my just personal opinion, and I don't know if this is intelligent or not, but my thinking is that Biden is going to push the limit on a bunch of different things to see how much the House is willing to play ball. And I think that this is one of those things where it's like, if he pushes this forward, it would make them they would lose so much like wind out of their sails if this was the thing that they sort of lived and died on. If they were like, no, we're going to stand up for anti-cannabis like legislation. Like, I think that would make their path to being like, it would just alienate them from a bunch of people that they don't need to alienate themselves from.
I agree with you, but do you think the anti-abortion person can be convinced to be pro-cannabis?
Oklahoma, cannabis is booming. And
Oklahoma
it's
cannabis is booming. Miami cannabis was booming. There was a lot of like pasty red people smoking a lot of weed.
So you think it's going to happen under this administration? I hope you're right.
I hope so too. I mean,
that's a gold mine then if that happens.
yeah.
I mean, if you think about how much deficits every state now has post-pandemic, they should legalize everything.
They should be, the fact that they aren't more active, they would rather print more money than just take the tax money from things that people already want to buy.
Yeah, gambling and marijuana.
Yeah.
So easy.
They would rather just be like,
prostitution.
No, we're just inflation. Yeah. So it's kind of mind-boggling to me.
That is insane. But if you want to get your beak wet in cannabis, Weed Maps just got spacked up.
Spack it up, baby.
And so Weed
1.5
Maps, I've never
billion.
used it. Is it just a dispensary fucking Google map? What is it?
Correct. It's Google Maps with just the dispensaries on it and no other business.
I mean, I don't understand. Why is that worth 1.5 billion?
When I saw that, I wasn't even aware that this was happening, but I think it's because it exists in this weird place where it doesn't touch the leaf, and it is a massive company. It's been around for at least 10, 15 years.
So it's your only chance to get exposure to cannabis.
I'd assume people pay to be featured. Is that?
Yeah,
that's got to be the
it's the
revenue
Yelp
stream,
model,
right?
It's the Yelp model. So it's like you can pay to get yourself listed higher. There's sponsored. There's
And it's a terrible product.
It's the worst.
It's the worst app.
And when I was in high school, it was like in high school they used to have like dudes like really sketchy dudes walking around handing out like little, like, in Vegas,
Yeah,
how they
that's
like
where I first
flick the
found-
cards.
yeah.
They had people like that who were like, yo, go check out Weed Maps. You need some fucking weed. Like,
I mean, these guys did 160 million in revenue profitably.
that's because, and here's the other thing, you can't advertise weed that many places.
Yeah.
There's only so many places that if you have a real weed product and you have an advertising budget,
Yeah. That's why I want to only take money from cannabis companies for podcasts.
that's not a bad idea, but it might be a little bit tough to reconcile that with the tax man.
Yeah, they
That's the
have
only-
to pay cash, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you can pay
But
us
if
in
we
crypto.
report it,
Huh?
if we report it, it's fine, right?
Yeah. But like from what I've heard is people are still like who are in the can, like people at Cookies, they drive up with bags of cash to Sacramento and drop it off in person because it's it's still so
Well,
inefficient.
I know dispensaries have that problem.
Yeah.
They can't use.
Yeah, but like they're taking
Banks.
a bunch of cash in, but they can't pay the tax on that cash in anything but cash.
Who owns Cookies?
Burner.
Who's Burner?
He's
He's
like the face of it.
He was like a guy who you literally used to open up for Wiz Khalifa on tour, and like became
Good
like
pivot.
the best pivot, and he became like the guy who was like had a really sort of elevated taste. He would be like, oh, like this strain, like I like worked with geneticists to do this, and
Great
et cetera, et cetera.
content.
Great content, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he really evangelized people, which is
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
It's a great win.
Yeah, and I mean, they're selling clothing more than they. I mean,
Their
more
clothing
than,
does 6 figures a week too.
yeah, their clothing business is massive.
Yeah.
Go public.
The clothing business
He
can go
apparently
public.
tried to, and he had a really tough time.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yeah.
In Toronto?
Well, he tried to go through in Canada, and it was just a really tough time. So, which is
Interesting.
why I'm saying, like, even if you build a business that's doing $450,000 a day in retail, like, if it's touching the leaf, and you're still dealing with like the issues of credit card processing and paying your taxes in cash and all this other stuff. It's like no private equity company wants that.
Too much of a headache.
Yeah, why?
Yeah. That's amazing. That's a great story. Finally, some good news. Facebook is being sued by 48 states with the idea to break up and unwind 2 acquisitions. If you're not familiar, Facebook bought Instagram and WhatsApp. So I don't know where they're going to get with this, but I love the aggressive nature. I like that they came guns blazing and said, I'd rather you shoot for the moon and you still hit it out of the park if you get anything done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook responded, which with the right response, you guys approved this.
Yeah.
How are you doing revisionist history? And they shouldn't have been allowed to buy Instagram back then, but I don't even know how unwinding even works. It's not even possible.
I mean, it's happened. It's happened in history.
It's happened in history, but not with businesses that are so these businesses have all their data intertwined. They have all of their customers intertwined. Like
it's the same servers that are housing both data sets.
So, I mean, just universal login is such a
100%.
fucking
and you're
disaster.
gonna have to uncouple all of
They
that.
don't even have the resources to figure out how to do that.
They don't even know what they're asking for.
No.
They have no idea what spinning off Instagram even means.
No, but I like that it's just so ridiculous.
100%.
That it I'm sure people at Facebook were like, fuck, that's aggressive. Because usually the fines that these guys get, the FTC
100
bullshit,
mil.
Yeah, I think this is just a tax. They're going to have to pay some sort of fine. And
I think regulation is coming though. I think the next generation of politicians, the younger ones, are going to be informed. They know what these businesses and the damages they've done to society. And there will be a person that is smart enough to be like, all these guilty WhatsApp founders and Instagram founders are going to go consult with
after they sold all their shares.
After they sold all their shares and said, okay, do you want to break up Facebook? This is how you do it.
100%.
I guarantee you that's how these things have happened in the past. They have an axe to grind with Zuckerberg. Fuck you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the one, like, I am all for like monopolistic businesses being given their sort of due course, but I think what the issue that this causes for me in like sort of the global technological battle, if you will, is that China's not doing this. Russia is not doing this.
Right.
They're letting their companies go as big and as fucking wide and as heavy as they want to get. Like, and I think that as you continually start to put in these artificial ceilings into American businesses, there's a head that's going to come to at a certain point.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point, because if you think about technology right now, China is so far ahead of the US, which 10 years ago wasn't the case.
No.
And the way they do social commerce, the way they do everything is just better. I mean, TikTok's the perfect example.
Yeah.
Came over here and kicked everyone's ass.
Yeah.
And it's going to be I mean, you said it great. Like, it's almost a national threat to limit these companies
100%.
because the Chinese companies are going to be not only backed by the state, allowed to do whatever the hell they want,
They're not
build whatever
following any rules.
technology.
And they have way more people to operate with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, what really like, not necessarily grinds my gears, but what gives me pause and like what is the people that are asking for this don't have any concept of that because they don't even know what these businesses mean for like American mindshare in the global sort of economy.
Yeah.
Like breaking up WhatsApp from Facebook only really just creates like a divisiveness in a really strong American brand, and it turns it into this two slightly weaker brands.
Yeah, if we stop exporting, I mean, the biggest names in technology were all built here, but the next biggest won't be if we penalize these guys. And what we'll do for sure is Facebook, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they've been put on notice. No more big acquisitions.
Sure.
They're not going to be able to buy the
Anything.
next Instagram.
They're not going to be able to buy a snack.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they try to buy a company over $1 billion, $2 billion, it's going to be blocked.
But
Yeah.
what Instagram
And what
was
company
only,
isn't worth $1 billion?
right? But the other side of that coin is they bought Instagram for $1 billion. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
So it's like you guys are retroactively punishing people for creating or capturing value that they saw that you didn't. It's not necessarily their fault. It's more so on the legislators' fault that there's nobody who's like has the aptitude of technology enough to be in that's doing legislature that should be making these calls because
Right.
they're kind of just throwing darts at a board and seeing what sticks.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that we as a democracy, some of these companies have done harm to society.
Agreed.
So we need to find a way to hold them accountable, but also not punish them to a point where it makes.
Yeah, what I foreshadow is, I mean, what the pandemic exposed. We have half the country that says no mask, fuck off, half the country wearing masks, and we've been shut down for 10 months. And if you foreshadow what's going to happen with technology companies is we're going to keep pitting themselves against each other, against the government, and the best companies are going to be built elsewhere.
Yeah. The problem is policies have to be put into place that also protect the consumer, protect the people, protect data. These are things that Facebook and Amazon and Google had the most explosive last 10 years. And no one could keep up with policy to hold these people accountable. If we don't operate like China, so we can't compare ourselves to China, right? That data ain't safe in China. So,
No, of course not.
But ours, we care about that.
Right.
So we don't like when our country is divisive because of a platform.
Yeah.
We weren't this divided of a country pre-Facebook. We just weren't.
No, I completely agree.
So
and
there need
obviously YouTube, with their usage of DeepMind, has basically polarized the country.
Yeah.
And but as technology becomes more part of just the fabric of society, that's an export, and it's exporting culture, which is what the U.S. has always had. Facebook and Instagram is culture,
Yeah.
and it's scary
Yeah.
if you lose that edge.
I don't know how it shakes out, especially because it's difficult to argue that all wars won't be fought with the sort of leading tip of it being from a technological perspective. And if you continue to allow, there's just an exponential curve that we're kind of behind on, the fact that they can just grow uninhibited and just acquire whatever they want, build whatever business they want. They're growing at like this exponential rate that we can't just, no matter what we do, can't grow as fast as. And as that gap gets bigger, it becomes.
I mean, they could start with just banning TikTok.
Yeah.
If you're gonna let Chinese companies be bigger, badder, and then you let them come in and beat us at our own game.
I think there's some people, too many people in the U.S. getting their beaks wet with
Sequoia.
ByteDance. Yeah, yeah, agreed. I think a lot of like Republican and Democratic donors. There's a few people.
Yeah,
who
wasn't Doug Leone from Sequoia? He's a big Trump guy.
huge,
Trump guy.
huge, yeah.
And they have a huge stake in ByteDance, which owns TikTok.
One of the biggest in America. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of that kind of wheeling and dealing going on as well. Not no hate on Doug, but
Yeah.
there's 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 some people getting their beak wet for sure.
Guys, breaking news. That is right. It's your boy Pete here, and I'm bringing you what, Tim, do you want to say something? Tim, what is so funny? Go ahead. Express to the audience.
I'm glad you're in the studio giving us the scoop.
Give us the breaking news in the scoop. Right. Well, the scoop I have for you today is not that our award show is, in fact, December 14th at 8 p.m. live on Twitch with special guest and celebrity DJ Eric Deluxe, but it is that yesterday, while I was here recording behind closed doors, I got my car detailed.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're probably wondering, what is that experience like? Well, let me tell you. These guys, Michael from Nothing But Detailing, hit me up in the DMs. They sent in a shout out to Dee, and Dee kind of nodded his head at me when they said they do detailing and they're willing to do our cars as well. I kind of perked up a little bit and I said, oh, we're talking about detailing. He goes, no, not you, Pete. But luckily enough, Michael hit me up from Nothing But Detailing here in LA, and he came and detailed my car right here during work while I was recording behind closed doors.
Wow.
And let me tell you, my car has not looked this good since 6 months ago when I bought it. Not even that, not even the dealership didn't even get it looking this good.
How bad did it get in 6 months?
I mean, it wasn't bad, Tim. I'm just saying it never looked this good. It's not that it got that bad. I mean, they were pretty quick with it. I think they're very good at efficient what they do, but it wasn't that dirty, so it didn't take them that long. See how that works? Okay, let's not get things confused over here, Tim, okay? I keep my car fairly clean. But they did a fantastic job. They came right to me, in and out. Guys, Michael and his crew have been listening to us for years now. They even started with Short Story Long, RIP, and now they're doing car detailing. So if you're in the LA area and you need somebody to detail your car, please hit them up at Nothing But Detailing. They're awesome. Michael's awesome. And his business partner is also a Packer fan. So go Pack Go. Wow. Yeah, ride that one to the bank. Also, in other news, we do have the, again, award show coming up this Monday, December 14th at 8 p.m. live on Twitch with celebrity DJ Eric Deluxe DJing us in and out of the show. It's going to be very fun and very entertaining. But the biggest thing, Tim, is we have giveaways. A lot of giveaways, like upwards of 15 giveaways. Some including, we reached out to Manscaped. Manscaped is hooking us up with 3 of their performance packages. Now, you guys have heard about them before. If you don't feel like coming in and trying to win them, you can just go onto Manscaped and, record a win already for yourself by just using code GroupChat and get 20% off and free shipping of their performance package. Or you could come on live on the stream on Monday and you could possibly win one yourself. That's right. We're giving away 3 performance packages. We're also giving away a GroupChat care package. Included in that is the Wake Art candles, merch, holistic, Liquid IV, and more. We're going to be giving away 3 of those. We're also going to be giving away some merch in there. We're also going to be giving away Glamnetic magnetic eyelashes. So for you women, that covers you. Also women, we're giving away a pair of New Republic shoes. So you have a chance there to win. They have women's sizes, of course, available in a multitude of different styles over at shopnewrepublic.com. Plus, we're giving away a Grand Running Club bundle and more. So we're going to have a ton of stuff to give away. So make sure you get everybody together and you participate. You're going to want to make sure you're following us there and register and sign up for an account, because to be able to chat with us, you have to have an account. So don't miss out on that opportunity. Ton of free fun stuff. We're going to have a really fun night. I've got some really fun secret things planned, and I don't want to disclose too much because I think the guys might listen back to this and I'd give everything away. So
we already know about your tux.
Yes, but that is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
90% of the mass underneath the water. The tux is just the 10%. I almost said 1. Terrible math.
I want to know what's going on under the water.
Yeah.
Under your tux.
Disgusting. Okay, we're going to move on for this. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we always appreciate it. We're going to get you back into today's episode of Group Chat, and we look forward to seeing everybody on Monday. Again, hit up our guys over at Nothing But Detailing. If you're in the LA area, guys, they are fantastic, quick, great. They're priced perfectly, I believe, and they do an outstanding job. So don't miss out on that. Thank you guys for always supporting us. And I now get to ride around LA in style. Imagine that. Oh.
So we're gonna now move into winners, losers, and content. Anand, who's your winner?
My winner of the week is technology. I mean, with DoorDash, Airbnb, and a host of other companies that are going to go public in the next couple months, it's not a bubble. I hate to break it to everyone. Technology is just going to become a bigger part of the world economy. So they're my winner.
All technology.
What
so
do you
like
mean?
a laser, they would be considered winner.
Tech enabled.
Okay.
25 times.
All right, Zach, you got a winner?
I guess like just to kind of build on Anand's point is everybody who did that convertible note for Airbnb.
They 5X'd.
They 5X'd in, I guess, 2 months. And those guys put in some not insignificant check sizes. So it's a lot of good bonuses going around Sequoia and Silver Lake this Christmas. So good for them.
Yeah, mine isn't actually the industry of technology, because those people actually had to work, be visionaries, and build business. My is actually the investors who did nothing, and except write a check, and in most cases blindly wrote checks, and it all paid off. Like we talked about Mayoshi's son, who arguably is what I thought was one of the worst investors I've ever seen in my life, has now brought his fund from the dead and just cleared, I don't know, $20 billion on fucking DoorDash.
But if you think about it, I agree. I hate when investors pat themselves on the back every time a company goes public or a big round, because it's the founder and the entrepreneur, not the investor, that actually put the work in. But when you start seeing repeat names in every single one of these companies, it's not an accident that it's the same group that keeps getting the deals, that keeps making money. Like Sequoia's been doing this for 30 years.
So sure, they're an outlier in terms of their success.
I would say maybe the angel investors that just blindly wrote $15K into DoorDash.
Like I saw someone who wrote a $5,000 check into DoorDash and they were $6 million.
Yeah, exactly. There was like a receptionist at Uber who got a $5,000 check in the seed round and like cleaned up as well. There's like all those funny stories.
Yeah, which I think is cool. Like, look, I'm not downplaying what investors' role is in this process. All I'm just saying is like, what a much better position to be in than the founder. Brian Chesky probably thought he was going to have to shut down in April. Like he probably thought his life was over. And today, I don't know what he owns.
I don't feel so. He probably had $100 million in secondary before.
Sure, but like not him personally. I'm saying the company that he was. This Airbnb was the gold standard of like unicorn startups.
A lot of people's portfolios hung on Airbnb.
Yeah,
like, were completely.
I think Andreessen owns like 20% of Airbnb.
And a lot of
or something.
A lot of like the value funds you're like look up to, or people in the industry look up to. There's like 3 companies that have just saved their ass. In the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and so it's pretty. To me, the investors are the winner. Like, you got to write a check and get to write a Twitter thread, and you're gonna make billions of dollars. So who's your loser?
My loser is unfortunately Retail Joe.
Why? Retail Joe is that
exactly?
Money?
Retail Joe thinks 10-20% is awesome.
Yeah.
And with the way inside baseball works in technology, the Sequoias and a handful of folks are just multiplying such large amounts of money
over and
over again. And it's in the tune of tens of billions and the tune of like 50Xs and 100Xs, and Retail Joe's happy with 10%.
But here's the thing. Retail Joe was getting nothing pre-COVID.
Yeah, 8% a year.
Yeah, now Retail Joe is clearing 20, 30. I mean, like, Retail Joe, who invested in Apple, cleaned up this year.
But the other side of that coin is the weak hands. Like, those are the weakest hands in the world.
Yeah.
And none of that's realized yet. That's like just numbers on a screen.
Yeah.
People actually figuring out position sizing and stuff, like it's gonna be a bloodbath at some point.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now it's just figuring out when that point is. It's now like who gets stuck with the last seat. Who's your loser, Zach?
My loser, I might have to go with Rudy Giuliani.
Wow.
Just because I have not seen somebody who's had such like a terrible 2-3 weeks of just every single time that you see his name pop up in any type of news, it's like his hair dye is running down his face. He's farting on CNN. He's, like he's gone from like somebody who kind of had some credibility to absolutely negative, like could not run for like a student council. So
yeah, to think like post 9/11, he was a hero in New York City.
Yeah.
And now he's like a laughing stock.
I don't think that he could win like a local race in New York City right now.
I agree with that.
Yeah, he couldn't win. My loser is Johnny Depp.
Why is that?
He's just falling apart.
What do you do now?
I mean, there's a big story on him in Hollywood Reporter. I mean, just recently, this guy severed ties with his agent, sued his longtime business manager for $25 million, sued his entertainment lawyer for $50 million. We heard about his whole, I think Amanda Beard was her name.
Amanda Heard, yeah.
Amanda Heard,
Yeah.
sorry. His, I think that was his ex-wife, girlfriend, that whole trial of her like beating him up
Yeah.
and then she going off and sleeping with Elon Musk. It's like this guy went from like, arguably from like my age group, the biggest, coolest star of all time to kind of a joke,
For sure.
Yeah.
which is crazy.
I think he has substance problems.
Yeah.
Pretty publicly known.
Just Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is like, that's it. He was 80s, 90s to a T.
He blew through, I think, 400 mil too.
Yeah. I mean,
Those Pirates of the Caribbean movies, all gone.
yeah, I mean, the guy made so much money, was like this kind of mythical, kind of old school Hollywood star.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like sad just to see him
Yeah.
kind of morph into what he has.
And it's the end of an era, really, because
Yeah.
you don't get those Hollywood stars. There's no like person that really exists right now where it's like, I need to go into the box office to see that person. Johnny Depp was like Johnny Depp, Leo, Tom Hanks, like
Yeah.
that's kind of like the last sort of bastion of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of just a sad end to like
That era.
the golden age of, and now we have, TikTok and whatever, but like
Yeah.
you'll never have somebody like that.
Yeah, like we get mad at like what Bryce Hall is doing at a house in Studio City.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what Johnny Depp was doing in clubs in the 90s?
So I have a funny story. Yeah, you don't want to
You don't
imagine.
want to know.
You don't want to know.
Disney, this is back when Pirates was hot, had like a big investor conference and they were begging Johnny Depp to show up.
Yeah.
He's like, no chance. Because he just doesn't give a
Yeah,
fuck, right?
yeah.
And he said, I'll show up if I can dress as Jack Sparrow. And he did that because he wanted to be wasted.
Yeah.
So he showed up wasted as Jack Sparrow. He just was in character as Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, he used to have like I think Rolling Stone like put out all of his like monthly bills and stuff, and it's like $80,000 a week on wine, like all type.
Yeah, there was that big expose on him, right?
Yeah.
They went through his finances, and they were
Yeah.
like, "This man spends like
Yeah.
like it's going out of style. Like money's like fucking."
This is a few years ago, and I was looking for a place to live. But we ended up at this house in the hills, and it was Johnny Depp's like first house, and that's how they were marketing it. Like the hardest house to even, the longest driveway in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like it was just a cool house, but like not for us. But it was interesting. I'm like, that's your marketing. Like this is Johnny Depp. I'm sure it does well as Johnny Depp's first house.
I'm sure it
Yeah,
does.
The last thing I wanted to talk about, so I got an email from a friend of mine, Jason, who listens to the podcast. He's a Chinese American, and he shares the same sentiment with me on, I'm very, to say the least, annoyed with the way China has handled the coronavirus and how they've just not been fair to the rest of the world. And one of the comments I made on the last episode when we had Brent Saunders on was I was okay with it being called the China virus. And my friend messaged me saying, look, I share your sentiment, but me being a father and having family members or friends having to deal with kind of the racist sentiment in this country around Asian Americans, I don't think China virus is fair for us. And so that's a very tough situation. And I understand. And like, I don't obviously breed hate or racism, but I do have a hard time figuring out how to handle that situation. Cause I don't know, like, I'm not against Asian people in America.
No.
Like doesn't bother me, but I can see how maybe the Trump rhetoric of the China virus has created some hate against Asian Americans. Do you think if Barack Obama called it Wuhan virus, China virus, we would have that racist sentiment.
I think you would have the exact opposite reaction from the right. They'd call him the racist. And liberals would be like, well, it came from China.
What do you mean?
So right now, if you subscribe to Donald Trump's logic, it came from China, it's the China virus.
Yeah.
We need to hold him accountable. And he's considered a racist.
Yeah.
And if Barack Obama had said it, I think the left would have been okay with it and said, yeah, it came from China. And the right would have called him a racist.
Got it.
So I
Against
think
Chinese people.
Against calling Barack Obama a racist.
Yeah.
Because he called it the China virus.
Got
So
it.
I think literally, I mean, we're so divided and people are just literally down ballot on everything that they would just subscribe to whatever is being pushed.
Yeah, I think that's really the challenge is how do we as a country, because if I was a Republican and I wanted to run for president, my whole thesis would be uniting the country against China.
I can't believe it. I think that he would have won.
Yes.
If he had actually, I don't know who his political...
Jared Kushner.
Yeah, Jared, yeah, sure. And which is surprising because he's like a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't triple down on the fact that like, hey, we need to unite against these global forces that are creating havoc in our country.
Yeah.
He would have, and the other interesting thing as I was listening, I forget what I was listening to the other day, is that his campaign was the people that delayed the Moderna.
I saw that.
Yeah.
The New York Times article.
Yeah, by 3 weeks. So 3 weeks, he delayed that Moderna data by 3 weeks, ironically, to include more Hispanics and blacks in the testing. And that also, like if he had that. So I think that, I mean, it is kind of like a very nuanced thing to talk about because like every other disease that has been sort of in this realm has been the way that it's been named is where it's like Legionnaire's disease, Legionnaire conference, Spanish flu, Spain.
Yeah.
That's kind of just the way that it goes. But I think that Trump has been the person who like, if he even says the name of a country, it's automatically perceived as racist, whether that's what he means or not, because he's done it so often. And so he's like dug himself in this, or I guess past tense now, he dug himself in this hole where no matter what he says, even if it's correct in how you should be talking about it, it seems racist because everything he says kind of leans that way.
And I understand that, and that affects his followers. His followers then take it out on Chinese Americans, which isn't the point. The point is mainland China, which I think, is it that difficult for people to separate domestically? Like someone sitting in, what's a really red town? I don't know. Some suburb of
Pensacola, Florida.
Okay, Pensacola, Florida.
There you go.
That sounds red as fuck. So, in Pensacola, Florida, they see a Chinese person walking down the
They're
street.
spitting on them.
Do you think so?
I'm
No.
checking. Are they definitely giving it?
I mean, like,
I don't think they're doing that, but I think they are questioning.
there's prejudice for sure.
Yeah, there's prejudice.
And I think you see the same thing in like when 9/11 happened, you know, like anybody who's even had a slight tan was like, who the fuck are you?
You look a little
that's what
terroristy.
exactly. So it's like, I think the same thing is kind of happening is like when Americans find something to unite on, whether it makes sense or not, it kind of becomes groupthink. And it's like, China is something that I can conceptualize as easy to blame for this because there's somebody higher up. Like people who follow Donald Trump follow him blindly. So if he says it, it automatically becomes sort of the way that the world is. And so, I mean,
and I also think he was just, he lied so much. He was right all along. The vaccine was around the corner.
Right around the corner.
No one believed him.
No one believed. Yeah. Cried wolf one too many times.
Yeah, I mean, and I know, and that's why, like, in just putting a nail on the previous conversation was like, it's an interesting topic because I don't know how to answer his question. Like, I agree. I don't think it's fair that Chinese Americans or Asian Americans should be prejudiced. That's ridiculous. But how do you point out that this particular country has caused harm and not alienate people in this country?
Yeah.
I just don't know how to.
Sure.
That problem is very difficult to solve. And I remember after 9/11, I got called the suite of racial slurs.
Sure.
Yeah, I said on a previous pod, every Indian friend I know at SC would put an American flag on their car.
Yeah.
Just so that they'd be like, I'm
Totally.
brown driving.
Yeah.
I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I understand, and I didn't feel good being a brown-skinned person during that time when I'd be out and someone would yell something stupid.
Yeah.
But I also don't. I understand those people's frustrations.
Sure.
Right? Because they don't know where I'm from or what I'm dealing with, and so I sadly I see both sides to it. I don't know what the solution is. I just think we as a country have to do a better job. Like if I'm picking like what China has done via the virus and then take TikTok as like the cherry on top of the whole thing is kind of the biggest slap in the face to America.
Sure.
I mean, like, look, we're sitting here, can't do anything, and the only thing we can do is play on a Chinese app.
Yeah.
I mean, they kicked our ass this year.
Really did.
I mean, literally.
And they're not going to pay for it.
They're not. Yeah, there's nothing.
There's going to be no retribution.
Yeah.
The fact that it's not a bigger topic that like this is like, I'm not a very big conspiracy person, but the fact that the weapons grade biolab is not being more discussed is kind of mind blowing to me.
I almost feel like the U.S. government is like trying to put just like, look, we're not talking about it anymore.
Yeah, I think we're on such a precipice with like trade issues and other issues with China that like them doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on being like, yo, fuck these guys. Yeah. It just ends really badly.
The media was just distracted by Donald Trump's theatrics that we didn't talk about what was actually going on.
There is a very strong case that somebody in a laboratory just did not wash their hands properly and just fucking let this loose on the entire
I think
world.
it's undebatable that it was created in a lab, and the debate is whether it was intentionally let out or accidentally.
Yes, agreed. But that's not, like, when is the last time that's been a popular narrative in mainstream news? Not since it first came out.
No, they'd rather just say Donald Trump's a racist.
Or just count the deaths or whatever. But there's no, like, how do we prevent future versions of this from happening in the similar way?
Yeah. We have a lot to learn and educate the people about, because we as a society are right now in America, forget the rest of the world, in America, and I don't know how it is in other countries. Like, is it as divided in Germany? Is it as divided in UK of people who believe the virus and believe it's a problem and are acting?
So I had friends in London in August, no masks. They said no one was taking it seriously. Indoor bars, indoor dining.
But you know what? I'm okay with that. That means everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
He just came from a place.
Everyone's on the same page.
Everyone's on the same page in Miami, but in LA,
it's completely different.
It's completely different. And that's the same country. It doesn't make sense. That to me is like, what went wrong here that didn't happen everywhere else?
All it indicates to me is that for the first time in the history, I think, of the America, that I can guarantee you 10 years from now, it's going to be a worse country.
Sure. For sure. And from a social perspective, yeah, absolutely. More socially divided, 100%.
Yeah, it's going to be wealth inequality is just look at who's making all the money.
Yeah.
Right? It's just one group of people.
Right. And they're all moving to Florida.
And you have the rest of the country that's can't even keep a job because we've shut down everything.
Yeah. If you're a dasher, Tony Chu will give you.
You get 20 grand and then that's it.
$300. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm curious to see how next year really plays out, but we shall see. Pete, what do we got? Shout outs?
Content.
Oh, we haven't even done content. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Jumping the gun.
Content of the week. Barack Obama's book, A Promised Land.
Did you already hype that up?
Drama did.
Okay.
I just started reading it. It is unbelievable.
You read very slow.
I'm a very slow reader.
I was going to say, we've been talking about this for 3 weeks.
I just got the book last week, Pete. Shut up.
Okay.
I'm not going to announce when I finish it, but
okay.
I'm reading it. I'll tell one good story from the book so far. So we're getting to the point where he just won the Senate seat in 2004, I believe. Mm-hmm. And in 2000, he just lost a state Senate race. His buddies like, come to LA to the Democratic National Convention, get your spirit back. Mm-hmm. Shows up to rent a car. His credit card gets denied.
Wow.
He doesn't have the funds. Then somehow makes it to Staples Center. Doesn't have a badge. Can't get in. I volunteered at that Democratic Convention in 2000. I was in high school.
Wow.
And so I was in Staples Center and he wasn't.
Wow.
Then he goes to a convention party. His buddy screws him out of a badge for the party, so he gets denied at the door. Sleeps on his buddy's couch at whatever hotel they were staying at. Wakes up and goes back to Chicago. And 4 years later, he gives the keynote address at the Democratic National Convention.
That's crazy. That's an insane story. So he didn't get in.
He didn't get in anywhere.
So this is a message for all the kids out there that don't get into those parties. You too can become the president.
Yeah, that is nuts. That's insane. I definitely want to read this book.
It's a long one.
It
And
is.
it's
Like
volume
750
one.
pages,
There
right?
isn't only volume 1. There's like more to come.
Oh, there is?
wow.
Yeah, there's
Wow.
there's more to come. Yeah.
So, great book.
That's amazing. Zach, do you have a content recommendation?
Actually, the book I'm reading right now came out a little while ago. It's the Matthew McConaughey book.
Oh, nice.
It's
Yes.
I didn't really have, it was like actually just an airport buy for me, but
Yeah.
I didn't really have like crazy high hopes going into it. It's really, really an interesting perspective on, I think like imposter syndrome and like some, like a lot of the issues that people who end up becoming really successful, I think the trappings of success, you're faced with. And, he's like a really interesting guy, and he's been around LA forever. There's like stories of him, going to hide and like turning up. And so he's like been out here forever. And it's just a really good balanced look at how to manage success on the one hand, fame on the one hand, and just like a shift from your old life to your new life.
Yeah, I actually bought the book too. I just haven't read in 10 years.
Yeah, it's all good. I think he does.
I have a lot of books I want to read. My content, it took me a few days, but I started watching Wall Street Money Never Sleeps,
nice.
part 2.
Okay.
With Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it in a long
It's
time.
not very good.
It's not very good.
What platform is it on?
It's on, whatever, Amazon Prime or whatever, one of those.
Curious.
But, it's a couple days ago, I was just looking I watched 30, 40 minutes of TV a day, and I just needed something to watch. And I just saw the IPOs, and I was like, maybe I'll watch one of these old, what's the Big Short or what? I was
Big
looking
Short,
for one of those types of movies just to remind me of what the worst case scenario. So I was like, Wall Street Money Never Sleeps. Not that good, like Anand said, but I enjoyed it.
Isn't it crazy the concept of wealth back then, which was 6 years ago?
Yeah, I don't
compared
even
to
think
now,
so.
we're talking like $100 billion IPOs left and right.
Yeah, Gordon Gekko would be great for Wall Street 3. I was thinking my point with the content recommendation was, if they did a Wall Street 3 today and Gordon Gekko was like a late stage tech IPO guy and he was playing his games and like blackmailing founders to get stock, that would be amazing.
100%. It'd be even more gross than the first one.
Yes.
Mayoshi's son.
Yes,
The things he's been doing.
That's a movie.
That is a movie.
That's all we have then, right? Pete, do we have anything else?
I have a shout out.
Okay.
The shout out goes to Showa Ko. I definitely pronounced that one wrong.
Definitely.
But from New York, I wanted to give a shout out to my man Cal and his fiancee Alina for welcoming Calvin, aka Baby Che, into the world. Anna and I miss you in New York, but good luck in Charlotte, and we'll come visit you very soon. And also, the Jets suck.
The Jets do suck.
Yes.
They're the worst.
And that's all I got for shout outs.
That's good. Great. And we have an easy end to this episode.
Yes.
We will see you all next week. We have a incredible show, award show.
Yes.
Monday,
Yes.
8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on Twitch. I'm having Pete rent a tuxedo.
Apparently.
So, everyone should get dressed up.
Yeah.
Get the most expensive alcohol you can afford. Stretch a little.
Well, we know a lot of these people just went on these Airbnb and DoorDash IPOs, so I think they can afford it.
Yeah, everyone's rich, so go buy something nice.
Yes.
Sit by your TV, computer, however you consume Twitch, and let's celebrate the entire year. We got a lot of big winners.
We also have a ton of giveaways.
Yeah, we're giving away stuff from all of our brands.
Yes.
Plus,
Manscaped, Glamnetics, the guys from Waycard are sending in stuff. We're going to do group chat care packages themselves. So we'll just put all the different products we have here into boxes. So there's going to be a ton of giveaways, like up to 15 we have right now.
okay, great. So tune in, and people are already complaining. Eastern Standard Time group chat far is too late, but you're young. Stay the fuck up.
It's a holiday season. Like,
Yeah.
just take some time off.
We know no one's working.
Yeah,
Sleep in.
Yeah.
You know, you can flip the computer on at 9 o'clock.
He's
and
like, I
have it
got
sit.
Taco Tuesday tomorrow. So. And we have a special interview on Monday's episode. The founders of Insert Name Here, Jordan and Sharon, joined us. Really interesting story. Amazing success. The business also only a year old. So we'll see you guys on Sunday. Ciao.